Welcome to the Trendy Toonie, where we talk all things money as we try to make finance fashionable. Today, we're diving into the FIRE movement.
We are financially independent and have retired early.
Okay, so first, when it comes to being able to retire by 30, I want to introduce everyone to what's known as the FIRE movement.
Enter the FIRE movement.
For financial independence, retire early. And it's no fringe movement. FIRE has been covered by the New York Times, MarketWatch, and Forbes. And it's got more and more millennials wondering, could I quit my day job too?
What would you do if you could retire by the time you're 30, 40, or 50 instead of the typical 65? Imagine no longer needing to depend on your 9 to 5 to fund your lifestyle. Nope, this is not a short-term get-rich-quick scheme. This is about the long haul, making calculated decisions over the course of several years and maybe even decades for the potential of FIRE. So in today's video, we're going to look at what is FIRE, an overview of the different types, and 5 of the most common misconceptions about the movement. By now you know what the acronym itself stands for, but you're beginning to see that FIRE means working is optional. As Jeremy from PFC puts it, every day you've got 2 choices. You can either spend your full paycheck consistently inflating your lifestyle, or be diligent and consistently put money away from your future #baller lifestyle. Obviously, not everyone's ideal lifestyle may look like Gatsby's does. Maybe your dream life means taking more time to explore, or making more time for your hobbies, or spending more time with your loved ones. Whatever a rich and meaningful life means for you, pursuing FIRE can help you on your way. So at its core, it's about maximizing your savings rate by spending less and or increasing your income. Now, Mr. Money Mustache, arguably the OG of the FIRE movement, put it really well in his infamous blog post where he breaks down the shockingly simple math behind retiring early. It does come down to how much you spend and save. Most people unfortunately save around 10%, which means they're destined to work for at least 50 years in order to be able to afford to retire. But the more you save, the less your working sentences. According to Forbes, the average US household spends about $61,000 a year. So when your net worth is equal to 25 times your annual expenses, that's when you're financially independent. You've hit your FI number. So in order to continue spending that $61,000 a year, you'd need over $1.5 million invested in income generating assets. Using the 4% rule, it says you could then safely withdraw from this amount indefinitely and never run out.
Wait a damn minute. What?
Now that might sound like a lot, but there's a few different types of FIRE to keep in mind. Like lean FIRE, living on less than $40,000 a year, meaning it's a bit more frugal, you're on a budget, but again, depends on where you live. Then there's FIRE, you've got anywhere between $40,000 to $200,000, and that's a more traditional retirement. And then you've got fat FIRE, meaning you've got $200,000 or more, you're living a more lavish lifestyle, you've got a bit of a larger cushion, and you can just spend how you like. Then there's barista FIRE, where you're basically part-time fired. Here you only need to make a little bit of income each year so you can eliminate the need to work full-time. Then there's also coast FIRE, meaning you've got enough saved today that you can just let that money coast its way to your FIRE number. The reality is the average age of retirement varies from country to country. If you're lucky to be an Emirati, your pension can kick in as early as 49, but for the rest of us, it's an average of 65. But who wants to wait that long anyways? With the trend of financial independence growing rapidly, it's actually showing us that
retirement, it's not an age, it's hopefully you said financial number.
The first misconception, you can't FIRE if you're old. Of course you can. You can start at any age. I mean, if you're 20 instead of 40, you definitely have the luxury of time on your side to help you grow your investments with compound interest. If you're starting later in life, it just means you may need to be more aggressive with what you're saving, depending on how much you have and when you plan to retire. Misconception number 2, you have to make 6 figures to FIRE. I actually think Liz from Meet the Frugal Woods put it really well. For many people, asking these questions is outside of the realm of their day-to-day life. We have a real problem with income gap and people who do not make a living wage. So I want to make sure that we recognize that the ability to put distance between your income and your spending is often a privilege. While there definitely is a certain amount of privilege to be able to do this, it does also come down to math. So the less you spend, the less you're required to spend for your future. And there are plenty of inspirational stories online of those that have achieved FIRE at all income levels from all parts of the world. The unfortunate reality is also at the other end of the spectrum, many high income people are still paycheck to paycheck. It's very easy to inflate your lifestyle beyond your means at any income level. Number 3, you can't FIRE with kids. Undeniably, it is expensive to have children, and the more you have, the more expensive it can be. Having kids, though, does not prevent you from attaining FIRE. It may be more challenging and it may take more time. I've got another video, though, that showcases case studies on how different families or people have done FIRE. One of the examples shown is actually a family with 2 kids that was able to retire within 8 years. I'll leave a link to that video below if you're still in doubt. Now on to number 4, you have to sacrifice a lot. I mean, yes and no. Depends on if you think your FIRE goal is worthwhile and if you've put an achievable plan in place. It will mean paying off debt and increasing your savings significantly, but as shown, there are different types of FIRE to strive for. You don't have to give up everything, just focus on the things that you love the most and cut out the rest to save.
You can do it!
Number 5, you must retire. The reality is you can apply it however you want. Take the FI with your FU money or take the full FIRE. Financial independence? I'd like that. Retire early? Now it's up to you. For me, I'm already past the point of being able to retire by the time I'm 30, as I sadly just turned 31 this year. But I implement many of the philosophies of the movement, and I am working towards financial independence in the future. For me personally, 3 things I'm focusing on and 3 things that can be a takeaway for you, whether you're aiming for a laptop lifestyle, to retire early, or just to have enough money so that you can say sayonara to your job, try these out. The first is having a high minimum savings rate. Of course, I understand things happen, but my personal goal is to be intentional with my money as much as possible. Each month, I aim to hit a minimum 40% savings rate. The more you're able to save, as we've seen, the more freedom you'll have to choose whether you want to work a conventional job or work on your own passion projects. The second is keeping a budget. As the saying goes, you can't measure what you don't track. I think keeping a budget doesn't have to be tedious, but knowing where your money goes is so important. Personally, my husband and I have a monthly budget meeting, and we love that time together to see where we're at. Whether it's by saving more or trying to build out more income streams, growing the gap between your spendings and outgoings is imperative.
On paper, on purpose. When you do a budget, it's a whip and a chair. You're the lion tamer. You're making that money dance. You're making that money behave. You're making it do what it's supposed to do.
And lastly, it may be a little cheesy, but having an attitude of gratitude. Trying to be content with what you have is like nothing else. I know personally I'm constantly mentally upgrading our car and browsing online for our dream home, but the reality is what we have is enough. More than enough, actually. As nice as it would be to upgrade something, staying within our means and having money for other more important things is key for me. Avoid trying to keep up with the so-called Joneses. I hope this has been a good introduction to the topic of the FIRE movement, and if you're interested in seeing more content around financial independence, retiring early, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.